Love his work. Definitely wanted to call him on a very busy day in the NBA, and I greatly appreciate his time on such a busy day. From the Athletic senior writer, Sam Amick on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line. How you doing, Sam?
Doing great, Rich. Thanks for having me, sir.
Appreciate the time. So let's get right first up. What's up with the Spurs trading away such a talented young player like Dejounte Murray? What's up with that?
Yeah, certainly. It's funny, and we kind of wrote about this, myself and our Atlanta beat writer, Chris Kirshner, the idea that as the Hawks were trying to go after Dejounte, them and a lot of other teams were kind of asking that question, like, why is this guy available? Is there skeletons? Is there a problem? And the truth is, there's not. It's two things. For one, they were in kind of NBA purgatory, if you will, just good enough to make a play-in tournament, not bad enough to be, in the game for the best draft prospects out there, including the young Frenchman, Victor, that is going to be available next year that everybody's talking about and who happens to play for Tony Parker's French team. So that is an incentive, but also Murray's deal, $17 million roughly this year, around the same next year and actually just heard an interesting chat with Jake Fisher from Bleacher Report made a hell of a point where he talked about the idea that it was almost Jalen Brunson-esque, and from the standpoint that, the Mavs got caught in this in-between situation with Brunson where financially, you go from not being able to extend a guy because his contract is below market, which is like DeJounte's, to then, having to deal with that down the road. And the Spurs were there with DeJounte. It was going to be tough for them to extend him. And then you would just have to hold your breath in free agency 2 summers from now. And so all those things, throw them in a bucket, and they decide to rebuild, which is counterintuitive because it's Greg Popovich you're talking about.
Right.
And I do think they wrestled over that decision a lot. In fact, early this week, the Hawks and Spurs were talking. There was momentum on this deal, and then San Antonio went dark for probably 36 hours, roughly, and it was a little strange, and I would love to have been a fly on the wall in their offices, and you're talking about R.C. Buford, their longtime right-hand man of Pop in their front office, and then Brian Wright, their GM. It does for sure sound like they had this extremely robust, debate about rebuild or compete, and they chose to rebuild.
Wow. Okay, so and the Hawks, what a nice move that is for them. What else do you think they can do to get into the conversation in the East, or do they feel this is enough? Where in East with the Celtics, we were all assuming how young and talented they are going to get better, even though they were just 2 games shy of winning it all this year, and the Sixers and the Bucks and the Heat, and I can't wait to see what Pat Riley's going to cook up here. But what do you think the Hawks' next move is, if there is one, Sam Amick?
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that if I was the Hawks would concern me. I understand, Tony Ressler, the Hawks owner, is a major player here as far as, driving force. He's very aggressive at the moment, kind of mandated their front office that they swing big, and they did that. But then, to your point, yesterday as I'm writing this story, and I actually have it in front of me, it's this one line with all the teams that you just mentioned. It says the Hawks must find a way to contend in an Eastern Conference with Boston, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Miami, and Brooklyn. It's like, ooh-wee. Like, now that Kyrie Irving has opted in, things are still tenuous in Brooklyn, but for the time being, they got Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Ben Simmons, and it does sound, I know people might chuckle, but it sounds like Ben's going to play. The East is loaded. The Hawks are going to need to continue pushing. And so a John Collins trade I still expect to happen. I don't know when exactly. Could be soon, could be a little bit farther out. But I don't think the Murray deal changes anything about the Collins situation. And so it's hard to evaluate where they fall in the East, and kind of impossible until you know what happens with that deal. That's a major, another shoe to drop. What are they getting back for John Collins? That's going to have everything to do with their ability to keep up with the Joneses in the East.
Senior NBA writer Sam Amick from The Athletic here on the Rich Eisen Show. James Harden gives the flexibility to Daryl Morey to build a championship team around him by not opting back in. That's the general sense of that maneuver. Yes, Sam?
Yes. Not a shocker. When James, even when the Nets and the Sixers were talking about the James Harden trade, one of the things that, made the Sixers feel confident about the move was because of the relationship with Daryl Morey and James, obviously from the Houston days, that Daryl knew that when this summer came, that James was going to be malleable to an extent with his contract, that he was going to potentially leave some money on the table to make things easier for Daryl to do his job. And that's where we'll see if it works, but it's definitely a major positive for them. But, when you have that kind of synergy between GM and star player where, you can just kind of almost bring him into your front office and help him understand what you're trying to do. And he has, confidence and faith in you. So it might allow them to go out, a lot of chatter about them bringing PJ Tucker back into the fold and continuing down this 2018 Rockets, reunion type approach. But listen, PJ, is still playing at a really high level. And so we'll see if that happens. But yeah, James is trying to do whatever he can contract wise to strengthen their depth.
So that's the maneuver. It would be PJ Tucker. Anything else that would be on the radar screen? Any big moves? Any huge moves that can add a third major big time star there? Do you think, or they have that in Maxey pretty much?
Yeah, I mean Maxey's got to get to the next level. That's something they can obviously be excited about because he had such a good year last year. Matisse Thybulle, Tobias Harris, possible trades. Those are things that are still out there. The Harris thing is such an interesting quandary because, he's a pretty good fit for what they do. He's a really good player, but it's always, obviously, everybody, you get hung up on the contract and it's pretty restrictive for, what they're able to do because of that deal, but they haven't found takers for him in the past. So, I mean, who knows if something happens there. They had made Thybulle available, just again, trying to free up space going into free agency. That didn't end up transpiring. So the only, third star wise, you would hear about a Bradley Beal, all indications are he's staying in Washington. So I just don't know who that guy is. Kyrie's camp had thrown Philly onto its list when he was going through his situation, but that's obviously kind of tamped down. So I'm not for now seeing the path to them adding another massive star. I think it's probably around the edges.
So no one's going to make a YOLO shot at Bradley Beal? They just assume he opted out to opt back in at the max, or what? That's
the sense. I mean, free agency is nothing if not unpredictable sometimes. So, but yeah, the wind is for sure going that direction. And it just feels very much like, Bradley's going to take the bag and you are going to hear a lot about his loyalty to Washington and this and that, but then around the league, it's going to be a matter of time before, okay, it might be a year down the road, year and a half, 2 years, if they're not turning it around, that Dan Bradley re-enters these conversations. But right now I'm not seeing it.
Sam Amick of The Athletic here on the Rich Eisen Show. So I guess what's going to be the big splash, do you think, for free agency? Because now that we're seeing who the opting in and opting out, Durant might not be on the move unless that goes sideways all of a sudden in Brooklyn. Damian Lillard, Instagrammed out a Photoshop of him with Durant in a Blazers uniform. I mean, Lillard needs someone to go play with him, I think, because unless he's going to demand to be out, I'm looking for where the big splash may be over the next few days, Sam.
I don't blame you. Yeah, it is. It might be a little bit underwhelming, but we also might get shocked. I mean, you mentioned Dame. I think Dame's situation is interesting. It's been reported that the Blazers are ready to offer that 2-year extension over $100 million. But I look at that situation and I say I think Dame is going to keep evaluating. You know what I mean? Like they added Jeremy Grant. That was a guy that he wanted. I think they're going to need to add more if they want his signature, on that extension. So that's something to watch because, let's say they don't make any noise, they don't make any improvements, then who knows? It might be around the corner that we're talking about. Again, is Dame, going to stick it out in Portland. So that's on my mind a little bit. The free agency side, DeAndre Ayton is not the sexiest name out there, but man, his market is pretty interesting. He's restricted free agent, of course, with Phoenix. And it's just such a unique situation to have a former number one pick who's coming off a career year for a team that won 64 games in the regular season. Now, I'm obviously giving the very rosy version of his status, because the flip side of that is they flamed out in the playoffs in terrible fashion. He got benched late in the season finale when, my understanding is he didn't close out to Monty Williams' liking on a defensive assignment. He got into him a little bit. They didn't see eye to eye, and then that's the end of DeAndre's season. So, the Suns didn't want to give Ayton his max last summer. Seems like a lot of feelings are still hurt there, but I don't know. His market is not shaping up very well, and so that I think is going to be one of the more interesting things front and center. Today, tomorrow is Detroit was seen as like a safe haven for DeAndre, where a possible max deal could be waiting for him. But then between what they did in the draft and since, they are considered off the market for Ayton. Some of these other teams that thought he might head to, even Brooklyn. If there was a Kevin Durant trade, there was chatter about what if Durant went to Phoenix and Ayton and Mikal Bridges might have gone to Brooklyn. All these, big-time possibilities that seem to be not in play anymore, and have me wondering kind of where DeAndre lands.
Sam Ayton, a few more minutes left with Sam Amick, a few more minutes left with the senior NBA writer of The Athletic. I tried to give you DeAndre money right there. So, so you're welcome. So I don't know why I'm stuck on this. I'm just stuck on it. My spidey sense is going off about Pat Riley. I don't know why. I just feel like Joel Embiid's tweet, I know he's Troel Embiid, but he sent out a tweet saying, Miami needs another star. I mean, we all see it. He sees it. I'm not saying that he meant himself, but I'm just saying he sees it. Riley knows it. The team is so good. They play so well, and I love the coach. I mean, they've got it set up. They just need to make that one big move, similar to the taking talents to South Beach type move. And I'm just wondering what he's got cooking. And if everything is set up, or something can be set up, if there's something I'm not seeing that he can do. What do you think, Sam? Am I off? You can tell me to get off this. I have no problem doing
you're
that.
not. You're not off. I mean, listen, we know what they do out there. And Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg is longtime front office right-hand man. Like, they know what they're doing, and they, like you said, they know they need another guy. I just don't think timing-wise it's right now, because I don't think that guy exists. For one, my day got off to a comedic start, because the first thing I saw on my phone was a tweet from Tim Reynolds of the AP indicating that the Heat would not be having a meeting with Jalen Brunson, which had been reported yesterday. And I love that, because it was very Heat style to publicly check. Brunson, everybody, unofficially knows is going to the Knicks. And so it was a little puzzling yesterday. It was like, wait, you're going to try to use Miami as cover, for these supposed free agency talks, when everybody feels like you've already made up your mind. And here come the Heat, making it clear like we're not going to be anybody's, kind of part of their dog and pony show. So they put that out there. So Jalen Brunson is not that guy. I will say, and this is again for down the road, when the Durant stuff started getting louder, and I was trying to find out, okay, if Kevin was going to try to head elsewhere, where might it be? I'd heard about Atlanta having a ton of interest and would be coming after him for sure. But Miami and Phoenix were the two that crossed my desk. And so, I would say that would obviously be, incredible and Heat style for sure. But I think that is going to require the Nets to kind of devolve again and even more into a place where Kevin actually wants to leave. Independent of those, of that name, I don't know who it is. We mentioned Beal, and again, I could be wrong there. Maybe they find a way to make that happen. I'm just not hearing it right now.
Yeah, I know. So they might lose Tucker and then run it all back with the same group.
That's what's hard, because you talk about pressure, and that's my favorite part of covering this time of year. Is like, man, pressure it dictates everything, right? Like the Hawks had a lot of pressure on them. They pushed to get Murray. The Heat have a lot of pressure on them, and a lot of, not the same type of pressure. This is the pressure of Jimmy Butler playing at his peak, but also being on a massive contract, and one that you just can't afford to wait at all in the Jimmy Butler era because of his age, because you got to be a little nervous, especially with the way he competes, about some drop-off, right? So you don't want to get Kevin Durant next summer when you just lost another year of Jimmy Butler prime. So I agree that it is not great for them if they do have to just run it back, because they're going to be seen as a second-tier Eastern Conference team. But we have also seen, as much as our minds kind of focus on the Heatles and when they've made the magic happen, there have been plenty of years when, they got kind of stuck by the rules and they couldn't make the magic happen. So, they might have to wait.
Last one for you, Sam Amick of The Athletic. I mean, I could just walk down the street, ring the bell, and ask Jeannie Buss myself.
Sorry,
but
Rich
I've got
dog is saying hello.
It's okay. It's all good. You've got the dog in you, just like Mac Jones. So I could just ring the doorbell and ask the Lakers myself, but I have you on the phone. What's going on down the street right now with the Lakers, do you think, Sam?
Not a ton there on my end, other than the Malik Monk situation is interesting. There's kind of a love affair between, as far as the Lakers stars and Malik. They certainly want him back, but it's one of those things where a lot of these players, it's like, you have the emotional human dynamics of these decisions, and then you just have the market, which is the Malik Monk. You just can't blame him for not being excited for coming back for the taxpayer mid-level exception, considering the guy was, giving you almost 20 a game. That's counterintuitive. So, the Kings have been tied to Malik. I think that's a possibility. And, for the Lakers, it's tricky because you are taking big swings on Kyrie and missing. You're trying to find Westbrook trades that don't exist. So now you're trying to make the best of a bad situation with Russ. But if the Lakers go into next season, really having stood pat and then losing Malik Monk, then, I don't know where you're handicapping them, but it's going to be another long, tough year. And it'll be unfortunate because, as we know, LeBron continues to do his thing and play at a high level, but it's really not going to matter. So, meaningless LeBron years are less than ideal, and we might be looking at another one unless they can really kind of pull the rabbit out of the hat here.
I love that. Looking for Westbrook trades that don't exist. I mean, that pretty much sums it up, huh, Sam? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's, you've got cap teams that maybe you can. I hate the word dump, but I mean, just you can send them out there. But it's like you're going to have to attach draft assets to that, and that that handicaps you in other ways. It really is. They have painted themselves into a corner. Nobody really wanted ever to put their kind of own up to the mistakes that were made, because it was, is it Rob Pelinka? Is it LeBron? Is it, the clutch and the Rich Paul influence? Just everybody kind of looked the other way on how this whole thing got to where it is. But the Westbrook thing has been a disaster, and it's not just about whether or not he's playing like he used to. It's everything that, the way that it restricted them. If it didn't go perfectly, and obviously it has not.
Well, at least he's still singing and driving. We saw that, right? On his Twitter
I missed
account.
that. What did he do?
Oh, my gosh. The day that he picked up his $40 gajillion option, he was just sitting in his front seat, and he just tweeted out a video of him singing about, you can't take my soul, and you just...
Beyonce, right?
He was just, yeah. And the only thing you could take away from it is he's definitely not going to be on The Masked Singer. He's no Victor Oladipo, brother. At all. Not at all.
It's been a bad week for superstar singers, because no disrespect, Steph Curry did not exactly nail the Hamilton rendition that I saw him dropping with his daughter in the car the other day.
Yeah, his daughter was carrying the team. His daughter was carrying that team.
Yes.
Yeah. Another Curry that can
Riley carrying the tune.
Another Curry that can carry a team. Another one. We discovered another one. Thanks for the time, Sam. I greatly appreciate it. Look for my call as we get throughout the summer. Really do. Thanks so much. That's Sam Amick of the right back. Thank you. Right back at you. I follow Sam on Twitter. You should as well. And it's a very busy time for him, so I greatly appreciate his time right there.